You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast, episode 537, Bride of Chaotica.
Welcome into another episode of Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. I'm John Champion.
And I'm Jordan Hoffman, sitting in for Norman Lau. Each week on Mission Log, we get in our rocket ships and strap on our ray guns to explore the Star Trek universe. Each episode, we're looking for morals, meanings, and messages, and asking if the whole thing stands up to the test of time.
This week, Bride of Chaotica, the one where Voyager gets stuck, Tom plays Proton, and Janeway suits up as Queen Arachnia to thwart Chaotica's evil plan. And it's mostly in black and white. As are we sometimes, too. You don't know. You can't see us. Jordan Hoffman, welcome to the show. It is such a pleasure to welcome guest co-host right now. And you know what? There may be a couple of people in our audience who don't know you, don't know your name, but I would venture to say that most of them do. Give us your Star Trek bona fides.
Who the hell is this guy? We want our normal guy. Who's this schmagegi talking? Who am I? I actually am currently sort of an ex-Star Trek affiliate. We're recording this in the summer of 2024.
Yep.
And I, right now, I have no official connections to any kind of CBS or Paramount Star Trek stuff, which is cool. I for over a decade, weirdly fell into a wonderful situation, and I'm happy to talk about how it happened, where I kind of became CBS at the time before they rebranded themselves as Paramount.
Right.
Kind of their in-house guy to do convention moderating, to work on panels. I traveled really all over the world. Las Vegas 10
Multiple times.
The New York convention at the Javits Center. The London convention at the Expo Center, I think it's called, or X something Center.
Yeah.
Dortmund, Germany.
Oh, wow.
Where I shared the greatest cab ride with Ethan Phillips I ever had in my life.
That's cool.
And then the Star Trek cruise.
Yep.
For five non-consecutive runs, because there was a pandemic in the middle.
Yes.
And it was great. And I also had the good fortune to host the what was then the official Star Trek podcast for very close to 100 episodes. I think we made it to 96.
And there you are. And a nice long
and now we're
run
back.
With Star Trek. And now you're back in the Star Trek podcasting game. So thank you very much for that. And I tell you, we're going to move right along, and I will ask you if you can tell our listeners how to reach us. And then we'll get into trivia for today's episode.
Absolutely. I would love to tell them that. If anybody's still listening, they should know that Mission Log is a conversation about Star Trek. And you can find the show at Mission Log at Roddenberry.com and on X, formerly known as Twitter, but now called X, and Facebook at Mission Log Pod. And while you're at it, do us all a favor and leave a review and a rating at Apple Podcasts or whatever your favorite podcast platform is, because if you're listening out there, you should know that is how podcasts elevate out there in the world of podcasts. Reviews are important. Ratings are important, unless it's a bad rating. But why would you do that? And listen, your comments can be used on Mission Log or engage on the Roddenberry YouTube channel. The Roddenberry Industrial Complex, the RIC, will not be denied. Oh, my God, that's rather Borgian. I don't know.
It's staying in there forever now. Yeah.
Yeah. So, John, why don't you tell the listeners what this week's trivia is? Because I'd like to know myself.
Well, I would be delighted to. We're talking today about Bride of Chaotica, and that is a story by Brian Fuller, although he shares a credit on the teleplay with Michael Taylor. And, those stories about necessity being the mother of invention, well, that was mostly the case here. There was a fire at Paramount that partially destroyed the Voyager bridge set. Yes, I kid you not. So they're, okay, what do we do? Well, write a script that just doesn't use the bridge. All right. So they did that. And they decided, okay, well, we'll do this story. We already like Captain Proton. We want to do another Captain Proton adventure. So we'll whip the script into shape. We'll do that. And then in comes Michael Taylor to put on the finishing touches with Brian Fuller. And that one might surprise you a little bit because Michael Taylor, he is best known for heavier episodes like, DS9's The Visitor and In the Pale Moonlight. Yeah. Wow. And very recently, most recently in our discussion of Voyager, he wrote Counterpoint. So another kind of heavy, dramatic story, right?
He needed to get this out of his system. He needed to show to people.
Like, oh my God, please give me a comedy, please, anything.
I do know how to laugh once in a while.
Yeah. So they shot all the Proton stuff and then, like literally weeks later, moved the production back to their main set, back to the bridge to do all of those sequences well after the fact.
That's got to be so funny because, at the pace they worked, you got to figure Mulgrew's head was 3 episodes away from it. Like, hey, remember that silly one we did a while back? Get back into that because you've got to babble about the intergalactic sandbar you're on right now or whatever it is.
Right. So at the helm, they had Alan Croker, and like Michael, he jumped back and forth between DS9 and Voyager frequently, and we haven't actually seen Alan's work since Season 4 when he helmed Mortal Coil, one of my favorite episodes. Yeah. Now, as you might imagine, this is one of those episodes where everybody on the crew and the cast, they got it. Right from the beginning. They understood the needs of the set design, the acting style, the music, which I think is fantastic. Even the visual effects. Just everybody jumped in to recreate this look of a 1930s sci-fi serial. They did a lot of research. They sat around, they watched all the Universal Studios Flash Gordon. How could you not? And that is where they got their inspiration. Now let's meet our guest cast. We mentioned not long ago on this show Tarek Ergin, who plays Ayala, and you see him a lot on Voyager. And here he happens to also be in the robot costume as Satan's robot, although the voice is provided by someone whose name is lost to us all. Don't know who that is. And
we don't know who did it, huh?
We don't. We hear a lot of him, which I was a little...
someone's got to know out there.
Yeah, I'm going to call on Dr. Trek, Larry Nemeczek, because, again, if we go to the archive here, that's where we've been able to dig up names of extras.
Yeah, Larry knows. Larry knows
We'll find it. We'll find it one day. Let's see, we get to say welcome back to Martin Rayner as Dr. Chaotica. What a good recurring gig.
He's great.
Yeah.
He's great.
Shout out again to Kirsten Turner. I mentioned her before because she is not credited as Constance Goodhart. And I'm sorry, but somebody who shows up, looks the part, does the part, and screams
the part. Yeah.
Screams the part. Deserves a credit. So
how many times do we, in the course of Voyager, do we see Constance Goodhart? Do you know?
I want to say it's a total of 3 times.
Okay.
And she does not get a credit. It may only be 2, but I think it's a total of 3 times.
Does she get more lines ever, or does she just kind of scream?
She only screams. And I think we reached peak screaming in this one. She's got like 10 of them here,
She does a lot of screaming.
Yes.
She screams us into commercial.
She does. She does. If you're looking for a cliffhanger, just Kirsten scream again. Yeah. I hope she shows up on the convention circuit at some point because she, really, she deserves the credit.
This is a frequent costume contest episode. Both Arachnia and Chaotica and the henchman and the robot. I've seen a Satan's robot or two lunking around Las Vegas bumping into stuff.
Well, and I know that you and I have both seen in Vegas, people who not only do the costume, but the black and white makeup on top of it. It just looks so
really cool.
Yeah.
It's a real creative. I'm always so impressed in general by the costumes, and then when they go that extra mile and get really creative with it, it's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. See, in this episode, we can say welcome back to Trek veteran guest star Nicholas Worth. This time he is Lonzak, and we saw him previously in 2 episodes of DS9. First, he was a Lesepian captain in Progress, depending on how you want to say that. And then he was a spy, part of the Orion Syndicate in A Simple Investigation. Now, finally, there are two photonic aliens in the episode, though we only really get to know one, and he is played by Jim Crestalude. Jim's resume is, at least for on-camera work, is pretty shorter than you might imagine, but it is interesting that his very first professional gig was also Star Trek. He was one of the El-Arians on the Enterprise B in the movie Generations.
No joke. Wow.
Well, here's why you don't know. He didn't make it on screen. In the final edit, he was not there. But, find your DVD, find your Blu-ray, look at the outtakes. He's in there somewhere. Now, a few years after that, he turns up here on Voyager, and then he made his way to the daytime soap opera Passions. He had a short recurring gig there. Fast forward a few more years, and Jim appeared in the short film West Coast Gothic, which in 2023 was released as a feature. So, little jump there.
Well, you know what's funny? I haven't watched this episode in a number of years until last night, and the thing that jumped out at me immediately in 2024 is I was like, oh, it's Cillian Murphy and Oppenheimer. Look at that.
He has that look. And you know what? And that's why I was so surprised when I looked him up that he didn't have more credits, because I thought, wow, that look, he looks like somebody that you would know, and you just nailed it. By the way, I'm going to call it right here, Photonic Aliens, that is now the name of my George Clinton tribute band. So...
If you're not familiar with this episode, don't worry, John's about to spell it out for us in black and white.
Prologue. Tom and Harry play another chapter of the adventures of Captain Proton on the holodeck as Proton and Buster Kincaid, respectively. They're in the middle of rescuing Constance Goodhart when a colorfully glowing subspace distortion appears right in the middle of their black and white world. Act 1. Our heroes are unable to end the program or contact the bridge, so they look for a manual exit on their rocket ship. Failing that, they eventually escape via site-to-site transport. Meanwhile, Voyager has its own problem. The ship falls out of warp and multiple systems go offline. Tuvok figures out that they're trapped in some weird subspace layer. They can't use warp, and even impulse power doesn't get them anywhere. Captain Janeway heads to Astrometrics, where B'Elanna and Seven explain that they're stuck in a subspace sandbar, which is crippling many of the ship's systems. The solution? Shut down the warp core and use minimal thrusters to avoid making things worse. Back on the holodeck, Captain Proton is still running, and two photonic alien life forms dressed apropos of the 1930s pop out of the distortions and start exploring the storyline's Planet X. They bump into the henchman, Lonzak, who mistakes them for invaders and hauls them off to Dr. Chaotica. Chaotica suspects they're from the fifth dimension and orders Lonzak to shoot one of them while the other escapes using a teleporter. Act 2. 3 days later, the Voyager crew is still stuck and frustrated, especially Captain Janeway. She grabs a cup of coffee and reluctantly listens to Neelix's rundown of the ship's problems. Most replicators and lavatories are out of commission. Janeway tells Neelix to handle it and heads back to the bridge. The crew's slow-roll escape plan fails, and just then they detect weapons fire from the holodeck. Paris and Tuvok investigate and discover a chaotic war scene. Constance Goodhart is dead, which shouldn't even be possible, and Satan's robot is barely functioning. Paris fixes the robot and learns about the supposed invaders from the fifth dimension. Paris and Tuvok find out that Dr. Chaotica is at war with these aliens. Then the photonic alien appears in the rocket ship, and Tom realizes he isn't from the Captain Proton story. Act 3. Tuvok and Paris realize that the photonic life forms have mistaken the holodeck program for reality and are at war with Dr. Chaotica. They try to explain the situation, but the aliens don't believe them, thinking biochemical life forms are artificial. Satan's robot intervenes and takes a blast from the alien's weapon, but the alien runs away, dropping his technology behind when smacked by the robot's claw. Paris and Tuvok brief the senior staff. Janeway is incredulous. They're accidentally fighting a war with aliens who can't even detect Voyager. Paris suggests the only way out is to play along with Captain Proton's scenario, helping the aliens defeat Chaotica. The crew warms up to the plan, smirking as they catch on to the lingo. Paris and Kim reprise their roles, but they need someone to play Queen Arachnia to deal with Chaotica. Janeway reluctantly agrees after some convincing. Paris and Kim, along with Torres and the Doctor, who will pose as the President of Earth, head to the holodeck. Paris coaches Janeway on how to interact with Chaotica, unsettling her a bit. Her mission, get Chaotica to lower his lightning shield and disable the death ray, using a pheromone potion if needed to put him under her spell. Inside the program, Chaotica, facing defeat, powers up the death ray. Janeway, as Arachnia, makes a grand entrance, and Chaotica is instantly captivated. Act 4. Janeway, as Arachnia, feigns admiration for Chaotica's death ray and throne. She plays into the story about her spider ships arriving to join the fight, convincing Chaotica to lower the lightning field by accepting his proposal to marry. Meanwhile, the Doctor, as the President of Earth, appears in the holodeck and uses the alien's drop device to summon him. He persuades the alien that they share a common enemy in Chaotica, and Captain Proton needs their help to defeat him. The alien agrees to help destroy the death ray. Proton, Kincaid, and Satan's robot prepare the rocket ship. Paris jokes about deleting the program later due to all the trouble it's caused. Then the Doctor enters as the President of Earth and informs them of his success as they take off. Lonzak readies Arachnia for the wedding, but Janeway keeps pushing Chaotica to lower the shield. When Lonzak spots Proton's attack, Chaotica targets him with the death ray. Janeway disables the operator, but gets caught in Chaotica's confinement rings, unable to stop him from firing on Proton. The rocket ship is hit and spirals out of control. Act 5. Proton's rocket stays airborne despite Chaotica's attacks. Janeway, still chained, unleashes the pheromone potion, which reaches Lonzak and entices him away from his position. He frees her, and she forces Chaotica to lower the shield at gunpoint. Proton's team destroys the death ray, ensuring the alien's safe passage to retreat, thus freeing Voyager and closing the subspace layer. Captain Proton and his crew arrive on the scene, catching Queen Arachnia hovering over the fatally wounded Chaotica. In his last breaths, Chaotica sputters out that death has no hold on him and that he will seek his revenge. As this chapter of Captain Proton fades out, have we seen the last of Chaotica? The end.
All right. Thanks for that synopsis. That was... I could hear the fanfare behind you of the awesome music. How much fun do you think they had making the music for this, right? I mean, it was such a departure. So.
You know what? That is one of my notes in here, and I rarely ever point out the music on Mission Log because, look, overall, Star Trek just has great music, right?
Sure, yeah.
But this, I mean, if you're like me and you love vintage cinema and you love these old serials, like, it spoke to me immediately. I knew those sounds without being the same. I knew it was of that world.
Yeah, but it was also like canned. It wasn't like a huge orchestra. I mean, I feel like it was you know, a couple guys with a synthesizer and whatnot.
Right.
So, but it was what the Captain Proton holo novel should have sounded like.
Yes,
you know,
they recreated that world exactly. And I know that for this episode of Mission Log, I'm going to sound like a broken record because every time I point out, like, ooh, look at that, it looks so good in black and white. Oh, look at that vintage design, and oh, look at those costumes. It all adds up. It really does.
For sure.
Yeah.
The thing that I love about it the most is, I always like anything on Star Trek where there's like sort of the proxy for us, the viewer, right? Or us, the super fan.
Right.
So here we're seeing Tom Paris act like, you and me, right?
Yeah,
I mean, he's a nerd. He would have a Captain Proton podcast if he could, So
he knows the stories. He knows how they're supposed to play out.
He knows all the lore, and he loves that briefing scene. He loves telling Janeway about the lore of Captain Proton and how it works. It's just he's can't get enough. It's like, well, then there's the pheromone potion, and then there's this, and you got to remember there may be a trap door, and you may be surrounded, and it's like us talking about Star Trek. It's like my nephew talking about Pokemon.
Well, and then you bring along the friend who's not really into it, but he's a good enough friend to do it. And for Harry, it's just like there's slave girls. I guess I'll come along.
Harry's a little more into it. Tuvok is just like, get away from me.
Yes, yeah. But how
quality
good is
Tuvok
it?
in this.
How good is it that we get Tuvok to actually be in that space world? Because so far it's been kind of reserved just for Tom and Harry.
Yeah,
and then B'Elanna popping in once to kind of console Tom. But now the rest of the gang gets in on the action. And
and 7 of 9 also is just like, this is preposterous. Like, entertainment, how foolish. What a waste of time. You're human. It's just ridiculous.
That's the perfect 7 of 9 reaction. And by the way, you mentioned the briefing room scene, and I love that bit with Janeway trying to wrap her head around this, and Tom just very dutifully, she goes, "Oh, hey, he has an army. Yes, an army of evil." And
yeah, it's like death ray. And somebody mentions the I think Chakotay mentions the death ray. He's like, well, he basically says it sounds ridiculous. It's very dangerous. It's the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Well, the thing about that scene, and it's kind of the best scene in the show, and it's the nut of it, because the stakes are high in this episode. The stakes are as high in this episode as any other. If they don't solve the problem, they're all going to die.
Sure.
I mean, first they're going to run out of toilet space, and then they're going to die. But eventually they'll run out of air. They'll run out of something. You're going to die. Mm-hmm. They're going to run out of. It's going to be bad. So the stakes are friggin' high. Also, these photonic beings are getting killed, and that's not good. I mean, we have nothing against the photonic beings. We'd like them to live. So we want this war to end between Chaotica and the photonic beings.
They said at one point that they lost 53, I think, of the, which I'm surprised is not 47.
Yeah, that's a good call.
But they, and I was like, oh my God, this is, we're ruining First Contact right now.
It's a pretty lousy First Contact, and it's with a whole other, not just a different species, a whole other type of species, a whole, photonic beings.
Fascinating concept, which I definitely, in the next segment, I definitely want to hit that a little bit too, because
it's like fluidic space, it's a whole new thing.
Yeah.
The stakes are high, but it is a silly episode, and it then gets funny. It's like the anti-Tuvix, right? Which you think is a silly episode and then gets dark.
And then you just
this is a dark episode that then turns light. So, So anyhow, the point is this: the stakes are high, but not only does Kate Mulgrew, the actress, and the writers and producers of the show get it that it's a comedy episode, the character Janeway gets it too, with the way she tells Tom Paris, "I'm a size 4," which is one of the funniest lines in all of Star Trek, in all 9,000 hours of Star Trek. Her listening to Tom go, there, you got to do this. First, she doesn't want to do play Arachnia.
Yeah.
He's pitching her Arachnia, and she even winks and points over to 7, like, there's your gal. Get old Blondie in the suit, and she'll be the queen, and use those pheromones. And Tom's like, no, I don't want 7. I want you.
Yep.
And she's like, what? Get the hell out of there. And then he's pushing it on her, and she realizes, Captain Janeway realizes that she must save the day. She must be the hero. She must be the captain. So she's got to do the stupid thing and pretend to be Queen Arachnia for the sake of saving the crew. But it's also silly, holodeck time. And she's not anti-holodeck. Nobody in Star Trek is anti-holodeck. This is such a funny thing about the holodeck and the holosuites, is like the mature way in which the Star Trek universe portrays fantasy as like a mental health issue. Yeah. Like, on most television shows and in life, if you get caught, like, think of Spaceballs, right? The scene where Dark Helmet is caught playing with his dolls.
I'm not playing with my dolls.
Yeah. Right, exactly. As I reach for one of the Spocks on my desk, right?
Yeah, there you
so,
go.
like, if I got, like, I'm an adult, right? So, like, if somebody walked in on me right now playing with this Spock, I'm supposed to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
On Star Trek, where they have the holodeck and the holosuites, it's not only normalized, it's kind of like almost like you have to do it, especially on a deep space mission. Like if you're not using the
Yeah.
holodeck or the holosuits, you're going to go crazy because you're out in the middle of space and you need to let off some steam.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know. Anyway, that's a whole other issue because Janeway gets, all right, I got to suit up. And she has that moment where she says, I'm a size 4, and she kills it. It's a very, very, very funny moment for Kate Mulgrew, the actress, but also Janeway, the character, who kind of knows she's making a joke there, I think.
And that's, you know, I think I definitely, my final summation, I will come back to those very similar points because, like, Star Trek doesn't always get comedy right, you know, comedy writ large, but when they find the natural humor in the characters and they allow the characters to kind of recognize the humor of a situation, it can play great. Especially when you've got powerhouses like Kate Mulgrew. I mean, she's just so great, you know. I want to point out some other, like, just kind of fun little observations here. We were talking about astrometrics a moment ago, 7 being in there, of course, just not getting the entertainment value of this at all. But something that I noticed in astrometrics, I don't think we've ever seen this before, was that full-scale Voyager model, like that 3D model behind them. Usually you just kind of get a star field, you get a little trajectory, a little telemetry on screen. But I thought they used that set and used the graphics really nicely.
They put a few bucks up there on the screen, and maybe John, it's because of what you said earlier. Maybe because they couldn't use the bridge set.
There we go.
They might have had the time and the money, and the sort of the necessity to say, look, we got to make astrometrics look extra cool this week because we're not on the bridge.
Yeah, good point. And I imagine they probably just went back to Foundation or who was doing the CG at the time and said, hey, you know that model of Voyager that you use anyway? Right. What if we move that to an interior location like astrometrics? Can you throw some graphics around it? We'll just use that as our set piece, and that'll be cool.
It's cool. It's a cool scene because you know I don't know that there are too many scenes in the astrometrics lab where. Because that's Seven's domain. That's her house. But Janeway's coming in like a boss there. So she's on that platform. She's still the captain. And it's kind of an interesting dynamic because there's even like a moment where Janeway, B'Elanna, and Seven are all kind of like at not seeing eye to eye or something. And,
they're
it's B'Elanna and Seven. B'Elanna and Seven are bickering a little bit, and Janeway's like, "Listen, ladies, you gals work it out on your own. I don't have time for this nonsense." You know, it's kind of a great moment.
Yeah. There's good stuff like that. Speaking of astrometrics and what Seven is doing in there, I'm a little disturbed at the idea that Seven just says, like, "I've established a visual link to the holodeck." That seems like just be very careful with that. The fact that technology exists now in Star Trek to go, I'm going to hit a button and see everything from multiple camera angles in the holodeck.
Well, you know, Seven would be mature enough or disinterested to not care. I mean, that one, you know, what happens on the holodeck stays in the holodeck. And let's not beat around the bush here. I mean, Quark brings it up from time to time. The holodeck is used as a sexual
adult recreation area.
Adult recreation. Yes. It's there in deep space. They're not all conjoined. Not the Delaney sisters. There's only 2 of them. So there are moments when all members of all species will use the holodeck for more than just reliving the Battle of the Alamo. Right. So that's Star Trek's maturity to respect that and understand it. Like you know, Quark. There's like. I would love to do a really close read and find pre-Lower Decks explicit references to the holodeck as a adult activity room. I feel like Quark and Rom have, like, Rom's made a couple of clean the holodeck references. They've gotten close to it. You know, like, it's not an immature. They don't play it for like a gross laugh. They play it for like it's a fact of life laugh. You know, and but it doesn't really come up. Certainly doesn't come up in TNG, even though it was something that certainly everybody at some point along the way thought about. And
I mean, Riker fell in love with Minuet. but
true,
he
but
was
that was-
manipulated to get there.
That was more of the heart and the head than the loins, though.
Yeah.
That was a.
Oh,
that
we are
was
talking about Riker, so
Yeah, well, that's true.
you know.
Who knows? So anyway, but the point I'm making is, you're right. I hadn't thought of that. 7 of 9 is watching Harry Kim, lonesome Harry Kim, when he's in the holodeck by himself.
Oh, yeah.
She could be watching. Well, like I say, I think that she doesn't care,
Yeah.
and she's too mature. And as long as no one else on the crew would be snooping, although I like to give them all the benefit of the doubt. I don't think any of them are watching. Maybe Reg Barclay would, but he's not on Voyager. So
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Got to point out in some of the comedic scenes that moment of Janeway coming into the mess hall to get her coffee.
Oh, great.
Is such gold. She is so good, and it's all about just, as they say, acting is reacting. And here's Kate just reacting to the moment, feeling the moment of, I cannot do anything until I get my coffee. And then the silence while her face registers that first sip. It's magic. Yeah. She's so good in that.
She really milks it. She takes it for a deep breath, and then she doesn't even say, like, now you can speak, Neelix. She just kind of, like, changes her personality. She doesn't even look at him. She just changes. And then Neelix knows. Neelix knows that he can start talking. It's an interesting scene because Neelix is the straight guy in that scene. She's the funny one.
Yep.
Because he's coming to her with problems. Oh my God, we're running out of food. The toilets don't work. What are we going to do? And she's like, I'm sure you'll figure it out. Or just like, I deputize you to come up with a solution.
Exactly.
It's funny. Yeah, there's not a lot of Neelix in this episode, but he is in that very funny scene. And he's still a bad cook after all these years. He gets that line. What does he say?
The good news is
there's
only 3 meals. Yeah.
It's only 3 meals a day. That's a funny line.
Like, he even knows it. Yeah. That's look, we're both friends with some of the folks at CBS licensing and brand management. John Van Sitters, if you're listening, I think we need the President of Earth badge as an official product. I love that. Love the way it looks on
maybe
Picard.
a sash. Maybe a sash.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Do the whole thing. Also, let's see, in Chaotica's lair, he has the Cradle of Persuasion, which I think is great. I think that'll be a Depeche Mode cover band. I'm just going to call it right there.
The Cradle of Persuasion looks cool, but it also looks like cheap. Like in a good way, you know?
It does.
It's like the rocket ship. If you could see it in Proton's rocket ship. You can see the string bringing the door down, you know? It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Like, it looks great, but it also looks cheap, you know?
Well, and I don't, I really, truly have watched those serials not that long ago. And I watched them growing up as a kid, and I kind of revisited them within the last couple of years. And one of the things that I love about the originals that they capture here is the total mismatch of scale. So, like, you see the rocket ship from the outside and go, okay, there's the windows, there's the door. But then you go inside, and it's just this massive, huge set with all these, like, multiple entryways and stuff that make no sense. And then you get over to Chaotica's lair, and they really nailed that original look from Flash Gordon, where it's these huge Art Deco sets. But then, like, to your point, you just throw in a prop. Here's the Cradle of Persuasion. It's a table, and we put a nozzle on top of it. It's dangerous because you said so.
That's so funny. I mean, look, that's TOS also, right? I mean, they had all this great set design, and they needed a prop, so they used a salt shaker, you know, and it was like a salt shaker you could buy, a salt shaker you could still buy, and it was part of Dr. McCoy's arsenal of medical devices, you know. So
yes, yeah.
So you rewatched all the original Flash Gordons?
I did. So all the original Flash Gordon, all the original Buck Rogers,
too, yeah.
And not to be missed, the original Gene Autry Phantom Empire, which is widely considered to be the first science fiction serial. It predates Flash Gordon by a good 5 years.
Wow.
And it's, I mean, we were talking about Art Deco robots wearing metal cowboy hats. Like that's how bonkers it is.
Is that streaming somewhere?
It is, yes. You can find it pretty easily. It's like an 11-chapter thing, and it's a weird blend of
Like a
Western
decent print, or is it like...
Yeah,
is
yeah,
it
not
chopped
bad.
up? Yeah?
Not
Okay,
bad,
yeah.
actually. Western and sci-fi and kind of kids story. It's nuts. So
my dad waxes remembrances of Captain Video. He was a big Captain Video fan in his youth.
Of course,
and he did like Buck Rogers. I think he was more of a Buck Rogers than a Flash Gordon guy for whatever reason. Same actor though. I don't know if it was the same actor the entire run.
Buster Crabbe did both in the 30s, and then they recut those serials for TV in the 50s.
Yeah,
but by then you also had other actors playing those roles. But Buster Crabbe's kind of the iconic. And it was a little weird because Buck Rogers is the older property, but they made Flash Gordon first. That was a hit. And what do you do when you have a hit? Well, you make another one, but cheaper. So they took all those props and costumes and sets, cut them down, and made Buck Rogers cheaper.
Was there ever a crossover between the two?
No, there should have been. It's too bad. It's too bad.
It's coming.
But I do want to give.
Of course, I remember the Buck Rogers from the very early '80s.
Of course,
yeah,
the great Gil Gerard, Aaron Gray. That's classic. We can't end our conversation about Flash Gordon without recognizing the fantastic 1980. Dino De Laurentiis, Flash Gordon, starring Sam Jones and Topol and Brian Blessed and
Max von Sydow.
Max von Sydow, that was the name I was looking for. There we go, right off the tip of my tongue.
And who was the gal?
Dale was played by... Oh, see, now we're going to get letters.
I can see her face.
I can see her, too.
Melody
Anderson. Boom.
There we go.
Melody Anderson. But I have to mention it because watching this episode, they talk about the lightning shield. And that is the thing in the movie that they have to take down so Flash can stop the wedding between Ming and Dale. So the lightning shield and, of course, Pitch Perfect ending on the question mark.
When you said that you watched the whole run, I wanted to ask you, did that question mark come from the movie, or did the movie take it from the shows?
No, that came from the movie. Yeah, that came from the movie. So in the originals, they're not quite that cheeky.
I love. Listen, if there's no one listening to this podcast who doesn't love the Flash Gordon movie, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But it's so great, and I am old enough. I did see it when I was very, 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 very young in the theater with my dad, and I had the Queen album, which is still kicks ass. The Flash's return, vicious. That drum beat is just amazing.
Yep.
And the way it comes in the film, it comes in at the end. He just goes, yeah, and he jumps up, he high fives the camera. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
But and just the look of it is great. And, the filmmaker Edgar Wright has cited that movie as, like, key to all of his work is Flash Gordon. Like, he's obsessed with it, and you can find bits of it in everything he's ever done. Baby Driver and Hot Fuzz and all. Scott Pilgrim, that one's got a lot of Flash Gordon in there. But the thing that I love about Flash Gordon, and I have a friend who, whenever there's really bad weather, and it happens a lot, because, we got this whole global warming thing that's screwing up the planet. Whenever there's really bad weather, like a big storm, because I live in Queens, New York, and he lives in Brooklyn, New York. So if something's happening in my apartment, it's happening in his apartment, too.
Right.
When there's really bad weather, one of us will text the other one, all caps, hot hail.
I love it.
Satan's robot is such a clunky name. Come on, Beelzebub was right there.
All right, so we've had a lot of fun looking at some of the little quirks and fun points of an overall fun episode, but maybe there are some topical or at least interesting kind of mind-bending sci-fi ideas to explore here. And one that really struck me was just the very pretense of aliens who are absolutely, definitely not like us. And I love it when Star Trek can do that and flip the script a little bit and say, like, oh, no. It's not that they're just not even not like you. They're not even organic life forms. Yeah. They don't even see you. They think you're fake, you know?
Yeah, I love that. That's the killer switch, because Trek has done it since TOS. with Devil in the Dark is we had our first silicon-based life form, and then the Demon Planet life forms were some other, I don't know, they were something else. They weren't carbon-based, I don't think. Right. Then there's fluidic space where the species 8472 lives, or whatever.
Very good. Good
whatever
call.
they're called.
Yeah.
So there's always been that, but this is great because it's, holographic life, which Voyager has pushed further than anybody with the Doctor's character. And then it's like, oh no, holographic life lives organically somewhere else. And whereas in our world, holograms aren't, we don't consider them alive, except for the Doctor. Photons be free and all.
Right.
Because he had his subroutines upgraded somehow, so he's alive, but everybody else is not. It's like you say, they turn the table. It's like, no, we don't think the holograms are real. Well, the holograms don't think we're real, man.
Yeah,
which leads me to think, when Oppenheimer there in the hat...
Yeah.
Does he have a carbon deck?
Oh God!
Where he can play make believe with
just
carbon,
make up things out of biochemical materials.
Exactly.
That's fascinating and yet disgusting.
Yeah, let's get Brian Fuller on the phone and ask him that. I mean, he came up with this cockamamie idea. Or do they have a carbon deck where we have a holodeck?
Oh man! But see, this is what's so interesting about that is that they have their own development. They're in another dimension. I mean, of course, the fifth dimension, and I will not make jokes about the age of Aquarius, but the fifth dimension is a pretense of the Captain Proton story.
Yes.
But they are presumably from some other dimension. They have this whole other idea of what life is, and yet they do what we do, and we meaning Starfleet. They do what we do. They want to look the part. They want to study the area. They want to come in. They want to make peaceful contact.
They do a first contact on us.
They do. They do, yeah. And Voyager so far has shown when we have encounters with other beings that are non-carbon based. Okay, we've had homicidal robots. We've had a homicidal hologram in Revulsion. So far the track record is not great, but this is the one chance. And I wish we had a little more time with them just because, the Doctor has met one of his own.
Yeah. It's a little bit like, I wish there was they touched back on these guys, maybe a few episodes down the line if we met them again. If they kept in touch somehow, and they showed up later. It's a great little add-on that never really gets touched again. It's possible, because I have not read every Star Trek novel. It's possible that there is a reference to these guys elsewhere.
Yeah.
In one of the Voyager books. I would love to hear from someone out there, if it's true, maybe someone knows about it. Like deep in a Voyager novel, there's a stray paragraph where they talk about these guys again. Because it would be cool, It
would, and it sort of pushes the idea of what the Doctor is, because from our point of view, we can just say, okay, the Doctor is a collection of photons held together by force fields, and is this set of programs that we gave him, but he has grown beyond that. Now, we don't know the origin story of these photonic aliens, but you could easily just say, okay, they're photons, there's a force holding them together. They have some physicality when they choose to. We don't know what they really look like. But does that portend something for the Doctor? They could just keep evolving and keep growing.
Sure. Well, that's exactly right. Like theoretically, these photons in whatever universe they're in, they were created much like we created the Doctor. Yeah. And the Doctor is always evolving due to those great subroutines that Harry Kim built in season 1.
Right.
And if they just keep on going and keep self-improving, they will eventually, after 1,000 years, evolve into something where they can just hightail it out of there and become their own and forget their origins. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. The other thing is I love the idea of the subspace sandbar, which is such a nice phrase. It's like self-sealing stem bolt. It's such a great phrase. Or telepathic pitcher plant. It just rolls off the tongue. I would love to have a self-sealing stem bolt, a telegraphic pitcher plant, and a subspace sandbar all in a bar together. Those three would be great. But the subspace sandbar is cool because it makes perfect. Like, I can't really explain it, but it just works. It's like they're stuck where on a subspace sandbar. Okay, great. And if you're in subspace, you're not in the real world. You're in subspace. Nobody really understands it because it doesn't really exist, or it's in a pocket universe, or who the heck knows. And all kinds of crazy stuff. Fluidic space. All that stuff is moving in there.
Right.
And then they get out. Why do they go in the subspace sandbar to begin with? Did they ever explain that?
No, they just hit it. They just say you're flying along, and then you drop out of warp, and then we're there.
Right.
And it's one of those.
It's like a real
where,
sandbar. It's like a ship in a real sandbar. It just
exactly.
happens.
Yeah. And it's kind of when you have a MacGuffin like that for a show like this. The bad thing is, it's made up, it's invented, but there's a good real-world parallel, like you just said. A ship can hit a sandbar. And you have the freedom then to say, well, it does whatever we say it does, Because literally, what does it do? Well, it knocks the warp core offline, and we can't move. And guess what? It also knocks the toilets offline. And it knocks the replicators offline.
But it keeps the holodeck going.
But it keeps...
And makes it really important. Really important.
Yeah. But the holodeck is always a separate system, of course.
Sure, of course. You know what? Yeah, I was going to say that the subspace sandbar reminds me of it was a late episode in TNG. I forget the name. But it was the environmentalist episode where it was like they were using one part of space too much to warp through, and it wore down space. It was like basically like noise pollution or whatever. And it was like this area of space, too many ships warping through, and it's collapsing gravity itself or whatever.
Right.
And they had a name for that too, like a conduit or something. I'm sure many listeners know exactly the episode and can tell me the exact phraseology, but it's again like it doesn't make any sense, but it makes perfect sense. Like, I get it immediately what he's going for. So.
Exactly. And this is one of the things that I always think Voyager, well, maybe not always. Voyager has its low points, for sure. But Voyager, time and time again, has shown, like, we're going to take a crazy high-concept idea. Like, okay, you think TNG was nuts by doing the occasional holodeck episode where they get stuck and they meet Moriarty and they got to find their way out. Okay, we're going to take it even a step further and make you not only buy what a holodeck can do, but we're going to throw aliens on top of it who think that is reality, and then we're going to throw this thing on top of it where Voyager is stuck. And, that is asking a lot out of the audience. Yeah. But like you said in the last segment, okay, they actually do raise the stakes. It's not just escape from the holodeck. It's like, no, this will ruin everything if we can't get out of here. But we get to do that in the framework of essentially a comedy.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, it's great. You're exactly right. Voyager always had the challenge, and most of the time met the challenge of having a premise and going, crap, TNG did it already. Okay, how do we go up? And that's Tuvix.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been, since TOS, there have been transporter mishaps that tore, Kirk got torn in half.
Right.
All right, well, and then they did it again, and they've had so many, they had Thomas Riker, they had all kinds of stuff. So they had Tuvix, and they go, well, how do we do the spin? And the spin is he doesn't want to go back. Figure that one out.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to get solved. He doesn't want to die. And that's why Tuvix is a masterpiece, because there's no way to get out of it alive. There's no way to get out of that episode happy. So it's a great example of what you're talking about, how Voyager, because it was, 7 seasons of TNG, Deep Space Nine was a whole different vibe. And then Voyager was different because they were trying to get back from 70... And how many light years? 70,000? 700,000 light years?
Yeah.
70,000 light years away.
Yeah.
It was different enough, but it was a lot like TNG. It's our guys on a ship doing their thing week to week. And then they had to always find new ways to get out of it. And luckily, they had so many great writers, like Brian Fuller. Fuller was involved in Trek pre-Voyager, but I feel like Voyager is really where he...
That's where he hit his stride.
Where he hit his stride. So many biggies have Brian Fuller's fingerprints on it. And I know to many Brian Fuller is a controversial figure in the year 2024, and I am ready to have that conversation another day. But be that as it may, on his during his time in Voyager, there was no one like Brian Fuller. He was top of his game.
It seems like there's a lot of creative freedom on a show like this, as opposed to, and folks, no letters, I'm not dissing DS9. DS9 is a masterpiece in its own way, but that is a show that has to hew very, very closely to the reality of those characters and the reality of the situation where they are. Voyager, there's this flexibility where you can kind of just say, we're going to go for the weirdest possible thing we can do, and then go for it, you know?
Didn't always work. There's always a threshold. There's
okay.
a threshold for every Tuvix, you know?
Good point. I want to quickly come back to this idea that you brought up in the last segment where we were talking about the holodeck and like the necessity of play, the almost expected requirement that these people are going to go into the holodeck. It is understood. Okay, it can be an innocent, fun game like Captain Proton, although Harry even frames it to Tom as, well, this is your historical study.
Right.
And I love that because there is something to be learned from the history of play as well. Like, it's like me watching a Flash Gordon serial. Yeah, I was not there in a theater in 1936. God knows, you know.
No, downtime is important. Downtime is important in life, in a marriage, in anything. I mean, you can't always be on. And you know, listen, when O'Brien and Bashir are running around the Alamo or whatever, the Battle of Britain, they're just playing. You know, they are just like two kids playing, and they're doing it adult, and they're having beers and throwing darts, so it's a little more adult. But it's key to it. You know, there's a great movie, which I'm sure many of the listeners have seen, called Sunshine, with our friend Cillian Murphy is in that again, Oppenheimer, and what's his name? Captain America's in it, and it's a Danny Boyle film. Great science fiction movie, and they're doing a space thing. They're saving the world. It's actually depressing. Well, it's not depressing, but it's a big movie. It's got a lot of. I came out of that movie feeling drained. It was a good one. Yeah. Anyway, there's a doctor. There's a Bones McCoy on that ship, and what he does when people are showing signs of strain is that he doesn't offer them leave in their version of the holodeck. He orders them. He prescribes it like a drug. Yeah. Like a medicine. He says, okay, you need 12 hours in the box or whatever they call it. Yeah. And the box is like, it's not quite the holodeck, but it's scenes of Earth and nature, and it's a way to forget that you're in a tin can on the way to the sun. Yeah. And I always thought of that as like a slightly more aggressive form of the holodeck, because the doctor, their doctor is like, you must do this or you're confined to quarters or you're going to freak out. Yeah. But again, it's like it's kind of like, you know, like when the holodeck was first introduced. TNG episode 1. Although there was a holodeck in the animated series. I am aware.
Thank you very much. I am aware.
But
Joker. Yes.
Let's put that aside. Let's put that aside for a moment.
Kirk is a jerk.
I mean, I remember being in middle school, but watched it and I remember discussing it the next day. And there were some kids who didn't like TNG at the beginning because they thought it wasn't like. Macho enough. Yeah. Which is a whole other can of worms. Yeah. And one of the things they were like, I grew up in Jersey in the 80s, so it was like, that make-believe playroom thing, that's lame. They didn't say lame. They said another word. And I'm like, I thought it was pretty cool. I don't know what you're talking about. I thought... When I was a kid, I thought Wesley Crusher was the coolest thing in the world. Yeah. I wanted that sweater. Right. I wanted to be him. I never understood making fun of Wesley. I idolized him. So right. But anyway, my point is, from day one, people have been kind of negging on the holodeck as wimpy or silly or soap opera-y, and certainly it has been used in dorkier aspects. I mean, there's a friend of mine who's not a Star Trek fan that likes to make, but kind of secretly is a Star Trek fan because he's seen every episode, but he hates it. Which are we all friends like this?
Yeah.
And he likes to make fun of like, oh, there's Data as Sherlock Holmes, like duh. And yeah, it's stupid. I get it. It's a little bit dopey. Some of the holodeck episodes are dopey, but I get it. But I do think, though, your point, and I'm taking a long roundabout route to get to it.
It's all right.
I do think that Star Trek does take a mature attitude toward the necessity of fantasy and playtime and all these things that would, if the technology could exist, it would be used in this way for sure.
And very much like the audience speaking to, hey, your interests may vary. And yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
Data dressing up as Sherlock Holmes, that might be dorky, but you know what? Don't yuck somebody else's yum. Because,
Exactly.
you know, it's that or it's Riker watching 3D lute players in his downtime. Of course, that's what he's doing.
Does the episode hold up? Will our hosts find any messages within? Tune in next time, true believers. And by next time I mean now.
All right, so as we do, we have covered an episode, we've analyzed it point by point, looking for the morals, meanings, messages, and here's where we get to ask each other if the episode holds up and what is the moral meaning or message, if there even is one. And Jordan, being relatively new to the show here, this first question is vague on purpose. Does the episode hold up? Because, look, it may for you in one way, it may not for you in another way, but what do you think?
Oh, I think it absolutely holds up. And I have evidence to share with the audience that it is a pretty good entryway for someone who is not too familiar with Voyager. Now, weirdly enough, my wife, she loves TOS. She knows TOS inside and outside and has seen all the TOS movies. She's seen some TNG. Mm-hmm. Hasn't really seen any Deep Space Nine or beyond. I've tried to get her a little bit into Voyager over the years, only because through my travels over the years, she's gotten to meet Ethan Phillips a number of times, and also Bob Picardo. And weirdly enough, Bob Picardo used to live in New York, where we live, and New York's a big city. A lot of people live here.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I have bumped into Bob Picardo outside of Star Trek events on more than one occasion. I've been like, holy cow, it's Bob Picardo. And I'm like, Bob. And he's like, yeah, this guy. Guy that I know from the cruise. No,
with the face?
Picardo is one of the very few Star Trek celebs that actually does remember me, for better or for worse.
He is a great guy.
So my wife has met Picardo and met Ethan Phillips and met them together, and they love each other and blah, blah, blah. So she's always like, when I'm trying to always get one of the post-TNG shows in her, she goes, all right, I'll watch an episode of Voyager because I love those two guys. So she had never seen this one before, Bride of Chaotica, and we watched it last night. And first of all, it's funny. I'd forgotten. I mean, we've been married for a very long time. To the extent to which she doesn't know Voyager, it's almost a little bit weird. Because she's like, "Who's this guy?" I'm like, "That's Tom Paris." Like, what are you talking about? Who is this guy? That's like if she said to me, "Who's your cousin again? Who is this guy?" I'm like, "What are you talking? We've been married for a really long time."
Right.
Hey, but that's a healthy marriage. I have that she, there's stuff that I love that is not that much her thing, and then she has stuff that she loves that's also not my thing, but we cross-pollinate from time to time, and that's cool. It's been working out for us so far. So for a woman who doesn't know who Tom Paris is, and didn't really understand how the holodeck worked, I kind of had to hit pause and explain it to her. Mm-hmm. She loved the episode. She got it. She got the comedy. She understood the general threat. The subspace sandbar worked on her.
Good.
Astrometrics, 7 of 9. She knew about 7 of 9, and that, she's like a robot girl. I'm like, yeah, she's a robot girl, exactly. So she kind of got all that, but she loved it. At the end of it, I'm like, what'd you think of that? She's like, that was fun. She was like, it was like a
Great.
Tribbles episode.
Oh, there we go.
She said it was like the Voyager version of Tribbles, and I'm like, you know what? That's pretty damn apt.
Yeah.
What else could be the Voyager version of Tribbles? I think it's this. Maybe it's no, I think it's this actually. What else could be? Yeah,
I think that's fair. I think that's totally fair.
So by that definition, does
Yeah.
it hold up? Yes. It works as a gateway for people to get into Voyager. As far as like watching it again, I mean, I think, the special effects look great. The costumes and everything look great. It's fun to see our characters in wacky situations. And the threat level's real. I mean, you do...
Yeah.
Get it. I mean, Satan's robot bouncing off the walls is kind of dopey, but it's fun. I mean, you can't complain. I mean, and like you say, seeing the Doctor as the president of Earth in his costume is cool. So
it's great.
I think it really holds up. Do you think it holds up?
Yeah,
also,
I mean, I'm mostly aligned with you, Harry. I didn't think about it in terms of a newcomer to Star Trek or a newcomer to Voyager, because this is weird, and there are so many levels you have to accept. Like, okay, here's the crew of Voyager. Now here's what they do when they're playing as somebody else. And here's this other technical thing you have to understand on top of it. That's a lot to swallow, but if she got it and she's like, oh, yeah, okay, I don't even need to know exactly who Tom Paris is. I just get the premise. That's great. Because I feel like with this one, it depends on where you're coming from. And me, like I said before earlier in the show, I am predisposed to like this because I already enjoy kitschy retro things, and I know film history, and I love those old serials. And if you maybe don't already get those or get the reference, then you might have a hard time. But even then, it's just kind of an over-the-top fun episode. You said Tribbles. I say a piece of the action.
Oh, yeah.
Because
good call. Yeah.
To me, just throw our characters into this sort of weird other world where they have to pretend to be something they're not. And to me, that's the parallel to TOS. So I think all of those things really work to inform what our experience should be of this one.
And I also think anybody who's a fan of the show is going to connect with Tom's fandom, right? Him kind of geeking out about the tropes of Captain Proton. Anybody, most fans are going to recognize that that's a little bit of us back in our face.
Well, I mean, look, even in the opening teaser, when Harry makes the joke about, the planets all look the same, it's like, okay, that's speaking to Star Trek fans who look 100%. At the sets and realize, they're using Planet Hell again. They're just using the same set over and over again.
It's so cool.
So, look, again, credit to Voyager for doing a holodeck episode, but making it something different, making it something new, exploring this other idea of a species who see that as reality. Such a cool concept. And it cannot be understated how good Kate Mulgrew is here. Yeah. Because she delivers just 100% of the time. And I love tough, scary Captain Janeway, like the Janeway that I do not want to do a bad job in front of. But I also loved seeing her have some fun and being out of her comfort zone. She plays that perfectly. And if you go back and listen to Mission Log when we covered Counterpoint 2 weeks ago, we talked about the ability of a Starfleet captain to act, which she did there in all seriousness. But here she is again, Janeway the actor, being played by Kate Mulgrew the actor, just nailing it. She's almost doing like a Nora Desmond thing here. When she comes in and this,
she's having a blast.
God.
Where the lighting catches her eye line and she tilts her head back. Yes. And she, and by she I mean Kate Mulgrew, but more importantly, Captain Janeway is having fun, and that's something. That's something that is a whole other conversation, which is like, I don't know, when it comes to some of these characters that I really, really, really love, like Captain Janeway or Major Kira or, anybody that Captain Picard, like maybe this is just like sort of my obeisance to authority or whatever, but like these characters that like I really love, when I see them having a good time, I'm happy. I really like... I like to, I really care, to a degree that's maybe a little weird, I really care about some of these people as if they are real. I have a real, it doesn't happen with a lot of fiction. I read a lot of books and I put the book down. I watch a lot of movies and I walk away. But there are some characters who, I wonder, and Major Kira especially. I'm like, is she okay right now? I think about her from time to time. Is Major Kira okay? Captain Kira now. It's a fun thing when you see these people that, for whatever reason, you've invested a lot of emotional time into having a good time. And it's a little treat, these episodes. You know, they don't come that often. There's one a season or something, and when they nail it, it's great. I mean, you know, Strange New Worlds did it with their goofy one where Dr. Mbenga is in the storybook.
Sure, the fantasy episode.
They did it too,
Absolutely.
and it was a lot of fun. You know, it's great stuff. So.
Well, and that honestly brings us perfectly to the final question, you know, what's the message or moral or meaning? And I ask myself, is there one? And does there have to be one? That really is the luxury of this 26-episode season format, because sometimes, much to your point, you get a hangout episode. It's fun, it's comedy, but you get a hangout episode with the characters that you care about, and the way you just described.
Right. You get a Data's Day. Once a season, you get a Data's Day.
You get to catch them in their downtime. Now, we do have other cool, more serious things. We have the threat. We have a first contact situation. But really,
and if there is a moral, in a way, they kind of tamp it down. I guess the moral would be the hollow beings, or whatever they're called.
The photonic aliens.
The photonic aliens. At first, you think they're a threat, but much like the Gorn in Arena, they're just trying to survive, and don't assume that they're hostile just because you're met with, you shouldn't assume that something you don't know is going to be hostile, because maybe they're just being threatened. And that's what's happening to these photonic beings, is Chaotica is destroying their ships. So we don't fight back against these guys, try to get on their side, even if it means pulling the wool over their eyes and lying and saying the Doctor is the president of Earth. It's all for the good of, like, because there's another version, a more sinister starship is in this situation, and they go, okay, let's team up with Chaotica, destroy these creatures, and then move on. And that's never even considered. Not even Worf would say that. Not even Worf would say fire photon torpedoes. No, it's very much like, okay, there's a misunderstanding here. Let's just, first things first, stop the violence, and then we'll figure it out, which is, for God's sakes, what we all should be doing whenever we can. So there's the message. Now, it's kind of downplayed. It's not to the extent in Arena where it's really the moral, where the Metron comes and barks at you from the top of a stone and says, we tell you not to fight. We tell you to communicate. Aye, Metron, we got it. It's much more down a few notches, but it's in there. It's definitely in there.
As subdued as it may be, it is still a Star Trek message. So thank you for joining me today, Jordan. And with that, Mission Log is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. If you'd like to support us directly, you can do so at patreon.com/Mission Log for early access to shows and the Mission Log Discord. Our website is missionlogpodcast.com. And for more Star Trek news and discussion, visit trekmovie.com.
So on the next Mission Log, Gravity.
Some of the music for Mission Log provided by Warp 11, online at warp11.com. Special thanks to consulting producers, Matt Esposito, Homer Frizzell, Julie Miller, Mike Richards, Mike Shadwell, Paul Shadwell, and David Takechi. Anytime these photonic life forms go on vacation, look closely and you'll notice they're always traveling light. End transmission.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.